Oh man, guys, today I have something very special for you once again. I'm very, very happy to have him on my channel. I made a recommendation about the artist, and back then I wasn't able to find any pictures. I found just the logo and I did the recommendation for Training Kiss. I guess you clicked on the video, so you already know who I'm talking about, so I don't have to be that secretive. But for me, this is always the joy that I find really cool music and don't know anything about the artist, and then be able to reach out to the artist and get a feedback. And now I have him on my profile section. So here is, of course, the great Training Kiss, which I really, really love. As you can see, I love Fade into the Dark. This was the song I put in my recommendation list. If you want a daily recommendation, you know where to sign up, right? But this is about Training Kiss. And he answered to my call for, to get on my profile segment so that I can introduce him to you and, and also get to know him myself. It's the cool stuff for me to find my idols and be in touch with them and get to know them and look a little bit behind the scenes. So that's what we do here. And as always, in my profile segment, I ask him first, please introduce yourself. Who are you and what kind of music you do?
Hey, I'm so happy to be here with you in the studio today. By day, I'm Quinn Martin, but by night, I'm the Darkwave synth artist known as Draining Kiss. Let me introduce you to some of my bandmates over here. Up here I've got Pro 1 analog synth that I do most of my bass lines on. Down here's the Drum Brute Impact drum machine that's holding down the beats. I've got an Ableton pad controller and a laptop that sequences everything. And over here, my trusty old Alesis Micron. It's playing most of the pads and leads. So I'm based in Gainesville, Florida. I actually was drawn here. I went to the University of Florida for electrical engineering, and now I'm a software engineer at Phillips Medical. So some of my other interests beyond music are really into calisthenics. I've also fostered over 20 bottle kittens with my partner, and we have 4 cats of our own. So besides that, Gainesville, Florida has a really thriving live music scene, and I'll circle back to that in a little bit.
As Training Kiss is a very unusual name, at least for me, but I'm a non-English speaker. How did you come up with it, and what was your kind of inspiration for this name?
So, Draining Kiss is actually a move from the video game Pokemon. I'm a huge nerd, and when I was stuck on trying to come up with a band name, I thought, you know what? In the list of thousands of different Pokemon moves, there's gotta be one that's a good fit for a Darkwave band and hasn't been used yet. And sure enough, I think Draining Kiss was perfect. And actually, for my first EP cassette, I made a custom Pokemon card of me, and it knows Draining Kiss. So that's kind of fun. And it's also been really fun in that, unsurprisingly, fans of retro synth music are also fans of retro games. And so I get so many people coming up to me at shows asking, hey, your band name, is that a Pokemon reference? And I'm like, yeah, it is. You're part of the club now. But it's been really cool in that I think this was unintentional at the time because I didn't know how the band was going to develop really, or even what the songs were going to be like that I would write. But it's come to be really representative of my style as an artist and in music, in that there are multiple layers to it, right? At face value, it's like Draining Kiss, okay, vampires, you know, sapping energy, that kind of thing is a cool and interesting concept. But there's kind of like a funny joke behind it if you look for it, and it's a little bit surprising for a goth band. So in my music, every song that I write, there are also multiple layers like that. So there are ways to take it at face value, or, you know, usually there will be something playful, musical that doesn't quite fit into what people expect, or there will be like inside references to get. But behind all that, there is also, if you care to dig, a deep personal meaning to it. So I think the Draining Kiss name just kind of sums all that up very succinctly.
Now that we covered your name, what are your inspiration? Which bands and artists are your inspiration, Mr. Draining Kiss?
My influences and inspiration for Draining Kiss are very firmly rooted in sort of the 80s goth darkwave scene, and honestly mostly the bands you've heard of. I mean, I in high school became a really big fan of The Cure and Joy Division and New Order and the Smiths and Depeche Mode, and I think something that all those bands kind of share in common is that while on the one hand they weren't afraid to go off and be kind of experimental, on the other hand, and I think this speaks even more, they weren't afraid to make poppy, dancey songs that were just really likable and have endured to this day. And when I went out and looked at some of the more modern darkwave and goth music being made, I felt like, you know, I'm not seeing as much of that as I would like to. And that was kind of the impetus for me to create this project, is I just wanted to make music that was something that I wanted to hear. And some of the bands from, you know, the late 2000s and early 2010s that really got me into the idea of producing electronic music, and I think I integrate elements here and there, would be like Crystal Castles and Purity Ring and Trust. Those were all really influential in getting me into synths, and they all had kind of a darker edge, even though none of them quite went full darkwave. Very inspirational in terms of kind of the dancey and electronic style that I do.
This is maybe a more personal question, but was there any special starting point which made you start making music? Any, you know, like a revelation or something what happened to make you want to make the music you do?
So how did this all start? I'm not 100% sure, but I will try. I've been playing music since high school, so that's almost 20 years ago when I first picked up guitar. And I was in an emo band in high school. I was in an indie rock band in college. After that, I lost touch with music a little bit, started getting it back going around 2018. I got interested in, hey, I want to make some kind of dark electronic synth music, and I started learning Ableton and playing around with the electronic composition process. And I learned a lot, but I wasn't really happy with how anything was coming out. And then 2020 rolled around, and that year I think was really a struggle for most people, and it hit me especially hard with the isolation. Like any music collaborations that I had going completely died out, fizzled off. And just personally, emotionally, that was a rough year, and I stopped playing entirely for 2020. And then in 2021, just trying to come off the heels of that was one of the roughest years of my life in terms of struggling with really bad panic and anxiety, you know, trying to reintegrate back into society. I was struggling with alcoholism, and it was just a rough one. And I don't know what clicked, but at some point I realized, you know, I wanted to make some changes to kind of get more out of life. So I started picking my keyboard back up and just playing around with it. And I think it's kind of like, you know, it's a little bit cliche, but story of the Phoenix, like I had to really reach a low point and kind of die to get reborn and realize like, oh, okay, you know, coming from this fresh slate of being at the bottom, I was able to kind of crawl my way back out, and music was a big component of that, and find something that I had actually lost touch with for almost a decade that, you know, really gives me meaning and passion in life. So after starting to just play around a little bit and compose, I had the Micron back there at the time. I was like, well, I wasn't very happy with what I was doing in the box from a technical side, so just creating mostly on my computer. I was like, all right, what would happen if I add another hardware synth and a drum machine so I have something that's tactile and I can kind of turn the knobs and really just feel like more of that sense of play in discovering my sound. And sure enough, for me at least, bringing in a couple of hardware synths and putting that together, it's like the songs just started writing themselves, and I was really happy with what was coming out for the first time. And I don't know if that was the synthesizers or if that was the internal change more. But yeah, it just started working. And that was at the end of 2021. At the end of 2022, I released the first EP, and I want to do this for another 10 years.
Which current bands and artists are you listening to? Anything I should check out or the audience should know about?
Current bands and artists, there are so many that are good right now. I think we're in a really good spot with the goth and dark music scene as a whole. I'm going to take this opportunity to highlight some of the bands that I've gotten to play with or that are around Florida that I think are just so good. So my friend Matt is in Last Grasp from Gainesville. They've been featured on Shellshocked. You should absolutely check them out. They're making really good gothic rock, death rock. A frequent collaborator of mine is in Jacksonville, Glass Chapel. So I actually remixed one of their songs. They make this great, I mean, they're anywhere on the spectrum from synth pop to more like post-punk, but just really awesome folks. And down in Orlando, you should check out Earth Fault. You should check out Super Passive. They're really good friends all. In Tampa, you know, I've had the pleasure of playing with Offerings and Sleeping Pills down there. The music scene in Florida right now for goth music is just awesome. So those are a few name drops. Outside the state, I think Dead Cool from North Carolina. They're a really cool Darkwave act that I've played with a couple times so far. We just get along so well. Scary Black from Kentucky. All fantastic artists. So those are some good ones to check out that may be a little bit more under the radar as well.
Can we see you live in the upcoming year?
Yes, you can definitely see me live this year if you're in Florida. I am taking a break until May, and then I'm going to do a big EP release party. I'll get back to that in a couple questions, I think. But yeah, I'm planning to play just about every month. I've traveled all around Florida. I've gone to Jacksonville, Tampa, Miami area, Orlando area to play shows. I think I'm going to do one in Tallahassee soon. I do want to get out of the state and do a little East Coast tour at some point. I don't know if that's in the cards for this year or if that's more of a next year thing. But I love the idea of being able to go and share my music live with more people, because this thing was created from the ground up to be a live show. It's not studio music. It's really made to go out and perform.
With which artist would you like to share the stage if you can freely choose, dead or alive, whatever? What kind of, with whom would you like to share the stage?
Yeah, if I could pick one band to share a stage with, Boy Harsher. I saw them here in Gainesville live in 2019, and it was such an incredible show. And I think that was really pivotal in me deciding to go this direction with my music and with my live show. I just love what they're doing. They're kind of carving out their own niche and don't seem to give a crap about what label they fall under or anything like that. And it's very much in line with my values. So if you're out there listening, hit me up.
Do you have any funny story from the road, or from the stage while performing live? Any mishaps? Any funny mishaps? Mishaps you wanna and you can share with the audience. Anything you want to tell us?
Okay, so I think the best live show story that I've got, it actually happened when I met Glass Chapel, who I mentioned a little earlier. We were playing our first show together. It was in a brewery in Gainesville that doesn't do shows anymore. It's probably for the best. They had this little conference space that they would rent out. It was, to have like conferences for businesses, like everybody sits in the chair and watches the presenter. But they would just clear out this big room, take all the chairs out, and set up a couple PA speakers and call it a venue on some nights. It was really awkward space and very echoey to begin with. But the funny part comes in, they got it all set up. I was going on first, and the person running sound told me, hey, okay, just go up and introduce yourself, and then I'll get the lights. And I thought, okay, yeah, I saw some stage lights kind of set up on the floor in the back, and I thought he was talking about those. And so I introduced myself. I'm like, hey, I'm Draining Kiss, and kind of giving him the signal, and press play, and he just turns off all the lights. It's just completely dark in there except for some projected visuals behind me. So I'm totally in silhouette. Can't see anything that I'm doing, whether you're in the audience or you're me. I can barely even see my keys. But I'm just like, all right, I guess we're gonna roll with this. So we still joke about the time that he said, I'm gonna get the lights. They eventually, for the last two bands, I think they turned all the lights completely on, so they just played in the terrible fluorescent lighting, and I don't know which one was better or worse, honestly.
What can we expect from you in terms of musical and video content for 2024? Please elaborate.
Yeah, so it's going to be a big year for me, for Draining Kiss in 2024. I've been releasing some singles. I just released Against the Light back in January. I've got a new single coming out next month. And then the full 5-song EP is going to come out in May, and I'll have that on cassette as well. And this year, I want to actually remaster my first EP and do kind of a double-sided vinyl release of EP 1 and 2. And I've got new songs that will be coming out for a forthcoming album starting right after May, pretty much. I've already got 5 or 6 songs that are in the works, so my creativity is just flowing. But yeah, let me go ahead and leave you with a little preview. I don't know if this single will be out yet by the time this interview gets posted or not, but I'm entirely self-produced, and I've been working on mixing the rest of the EP. So this is a song I've been playing live for a little while called Blood is Thicker. that I just started working on mixing. And I'll leave you off with that, and maybe we'll fade it out for the video or something. But here you go.